You don't need to be laid off to know it's time to create another option. You don't need to be burned out. You don't need to hate your job. And you don't need to wait for a crisis to finally admit, I don't want my entire financial future depending on one paycheck. Sometimes the sign isn't a crisis, it's a feeling, a quiet knowing that keeps getting harder to ignore. You know you can't or don't want to do this forever. You want more flexibility, more control, more breathing room, and maybe most importantly, you want to know that if something changes at work, you won't be starting from zero. That's what I want to talk to you about today. Hi, I'm Catherine. I am a coach and business strategist. I help women who are burnt out or simply want something different to create an additional source of income with the skills, expertise, or life experience they already have. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Because there is a big difference between waiting for something to happen to you and building something before you need it. The best time to build another option is when you don't desperately need one, when you still have your paycheck, when you still have your experience, when you still have the ability to experiment without everything riding on the outcome. Because once the crisis comes, your choices usually become smaller. We've been taught to think about career security as keeping the job. Get the job, be dependable, move up, stay employed, but here's the problem. Your job can provide income without providing security. Companies restructure, roles disappear, technology changes, as an AI, of course, are bringing changes to how work is getting done. And decisions about your job are ultimately decisions you don't control. There are conversations that could be going on in the background right now that you are not aware of. That's why I'm not suggesting you quit. I would never advocate for that at all. I am suggesting that you build while you still have the choice. Think about it this way. You don't build an emergency fund after the emergency. You build it before. So why wait until the paycheck disappears before you start figuring out how you could create another one? And I know what you're probably thinking. I don't have time to start a business. I get it. You have a job, you have responsibilities, family, and life. But I'm not suggesting you build another full-time job. That is not practical. I am suggesting you start building an asset, something that belongs to you. You don't need 20 hours a week. Start with a few focused hours. Identify what you could build, explore an idea, talk to people, test something, and create your first offer. The goal isn't to build everything overnight. The goal is to start. And here's the part I really want you to hear. You may not need another degree or certification. You may not need to reinvent yourself. You may not even need a brilliant business idea. You may already have the raw material for a business. It's in your skills, your knowledge, in your life experience. Think about what you've learned throughout your career. What problems have you learned to solve? What are people always asking you for help with? What do you know how to do that others struggle with? What have you learned over your 10, 15, 20, 30 plus years that could be helpful to someone else? Because something that feels ordinary to you may be extremely valuable to someone else. You may think, that's just my job. But it's more than that. It's expertise, it's experience, It's problem solving ability. And those things can potentially become something you own. And here's something people don't talk about enough. Building something of your own can actually change how you feel about the job you already have. I've seen this happen. The job didn't change, the boss didn't change, the company didn't change, but the person's relationship with the job changed. Why? Because the job was no longer carrying the entire weight of their future. They knew they were building something else, something that was theirs. And suddenly, the job became a source of income, not the definition of their future. Imagine having your paycheck while also developing another source of income. You still have your career, but you're building something you control. You still have responsibilities, but you're creating more possibilities. And maybe you don't even want to leave your job. Everyone doesn't want to leave their job. But maybe what you really want is choice. The choice to stay, the choice to leave, the choice to pursue something else, the choice to walk away from a situation that no longer works for you. That's what options give you. Choice. And choice creates a different kind of peace. So let me ask you something. If your job stayed exactly the same for the next 5 years, would you be happy with where you ended up? Not could I survive it, not could I tolerate it, but is this actually the future I want? If the answer is no, don't ignore that feeling. It may not be telling you to quit, it may be telling you it's time to start building. This isn't about fear, it's about preparation. There is a difference. Fear says something bad might happen, I need to panic. Preparation says something could change, I'm going to give myself options. You can build while things are still okay, while you're still receiving your paycheck, while you still have the time to think, while you can experiment and change direction. That's the advantage of starting before you need the income. This is where people often get overwhelmed. What should I sell? Who should I help? How do I get clients? How do I actually make money? You don't have to figure it all out at once. That's why I created my 4-part framework for turning your skills into a business while keeping your 9 to 5. It walks you through the 4 simple steps. Clarity. What could you build? Skill. How do you position what you know? Connection. Who can you help? And conversion. How do you turn that value into an income? That's it. A simple path from what you already know to something you can potentially build and monetize. So if you've been feeling that quiet knowing, that feeling that says, I want something different, don't automatically dismiss it. You don't have to quit tomorrow. You don't have to wait until you're laid off. And you don't have to wait until you're completely burned out. You can start now while you still have the ability to make thoughtful decisions. Start exploring what you could build from what you already know, because your skills don't disappear when you leave your job. Your knowledge isn't disappearing. The guide that I mentioned, the 4-part framework, do get that guide. The link is in the description below. Your experience doesn't disappear. You take all of that with you. And maybe it's time to ask yourself, what else could all of this create for me? because this isn't about making more money. It's not only about making money. It's about creating options, more flexibility, more control, more confidence, more peace of mind, and the ability to say, my job is part of my financial life. It isn't my entire financial future. If you're ready to explore what you could build from your skills, knowledge, and life experience, grab my free guide, as I mentioned, the 4-part framework for turning your skills into a business while keeping your 9 to 5. It takes you through the 4 foundational steps. As I mentioned, clarity. You figure out what you could build from the skills, knowledge, and expertise that you already have. Skill, that's identifying the value you bring and learn how to position it, that what you know, so that others can learn about you and understand what you can bring to them. Connection is the 3rd part of the framework. Identify the people you can help and learn how to get in front of them and start meaningful conversations. And the 4th part is conversion. Turn that value into an offer and begin creating the foundation for income. You don't have to quit your job to do that. You don't have to know everything to get started. You don't have to build it all alone. You just need a place to start. The link for the guide, the free guide, is in the description below. Don't wait for a crisis to create an option. Build it while you still have choice. Also, if you know a woman who could benefit from hearing this message, forward the link to her. We have to look out for each other and give each other options that can support us in our financial future so that we can have the future that we want and also maintain the peace that we deserve. Thank you for stopping by to watch this video, and I hope to see you in the next video.